USA running out of space for car plants. BYD going to build suspension in-house. EPA and USA tough numbers. Volkswagen ID7 motor information. Toyota EV production. Toyota e-fuel production. Scania electric truck for car transporting. British truck racing going to run on cooking oil. And new ways to attract young people into the motor industry. Hello and welcome to this week's MotorZen News. When I read this headline first, I had to double check it. I said, that can't be right. The headline is the USA is running out of space for car plants. And you think, well, it's America. There's lots of open space in America. Well, there are lots of open spaces in America, but the space required to build some of these new EV plants for batteries or for building the cars, they're looking at 1,000 acres for some of these plants. And not alone has it got to be 1,000 acres, but it's got to be 1,000 acres that's got good transport links. It's got to have a renewable energy source, and it's got to have, most importantly of all, a skilled workforce. And what they're finding is there aren't many places left in America that are 1,000 acres and have access to all those requirements. So they genuinely are running out of space. This is a result of the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA for short, that was introduced in America, and that has invested 120 billion into building cars and electric batteries in America in the last couple of years. So a lot of the resources has been used up because there's so much investment has gone into this. BYD, the Chinese manufacturer, which is going to start to be imported into Ireland by Motor Distributors Limited, MDL, shortly here in Ireland, they've announced this week that they're going to build their own suspension systems in-house. They say this is going to get rid of all the outsourcing problems that are associated. BYD is a very, very big company and has been able to manufacture most of its components itself, as opposed to traditional car makers, which usually simply buy in components and assemble them. And a very strong company. Gross profit for BYD last year was 20%, and it was up 11 times more than the previous year. So again, a company that's only really starting to make an attack on the European market, and this is a very, very strong competitor that's starting to come into the market. And as I say, MDL will be distributing the products here, which again is a very strong distributor, having been the distributor for Volkswagen Audi up to 2007 in Ireland. Still the Mercedes distributor, by the way. Scooter battery swapping. We talked about this story last year. Fairly new idea. The idea was that scooters were going to have an interchangeable battery, so there was going to be loads and loads of places where you could simply just grab a battery, put the battery that's gone flat in, pick the new battery that's charged and move on, and do that repeatedly at various charge points. The whole concept is starting to take off in Asia for NIO, the Chinese manufacturer again. They were the people that put a lot of investment, a lot of resources into this. The figures they're coming out with is they say that they've got 500,000 users across Asia. They say that they're swapping 260 batteries every minute. And you know, when you put that in an Irish context or a European context, you're thinking, could there be that many scooters? Well, if you look at the figures, India, 80% of vehicles purchased in India are 2 or 3 wheel vehicles. So it gives you an idea that the majority of the market in India is scooters. So that's one of their biggest markets. The other interesting thing that's happening now as well is that those charge points or swap points are also being used as mini power plants. So they've been integrated into the grid, and if there's a spike in supply, a spike in the energy required in that area, they can use the charge that exists in those batteries for a short while to assist in that spike and assist within that demand. So and again, an idea of how the whole system becomes integrated into the whole net electric system. The Environmental Protection Agency in America has come out with some new figures which are astounding as to what they're looking to achieve. They're saying that they want 56% improvement for heavy duty vehicles on the 2026 figures. They want these improvements for 2032, and they want a 44% reduction in emissions on medium duty vehicles. They're saying that they reckon that by 2032, 67% of light-duty vehicles in America will end up being electric. They're saying that these ideas of emissions saving will also save the customer lots of money, and that the vehicles will simply have to become a lot more fuel efficient. But the targets that they're putting out there are incredible, these reductions that they're looking for over the 2026 limits for 2032. Last week we spoke about Volkswagen building the motor for the ID.7 in-house and how the performance figures for that motor were so improved on previous ID models that have been produced. The motor's going to produce 210 kilowatts, 550 newton meters of torque, depending on the gear ratio that it comes with. But we looked in to figure out what were they doing, because also in the article we spoke about last week, they had to manage to retain the same space, a very confined, controlled space where the motor was going to exist in. And we got some information on it to say that they've enhanced the stator winding, the number of windings on the stator, larger cross section on that wiring. They've more powerful permanent magnets on it, and the inverter is producing a higher current. But big part of this also is they've done a lot of enhancement with the cooling system, because this tended to be with the electric motors that you could manage to get the performance, but the problem was that performance was dropping off rapidly as a result of the heat that was being generated from the performance. So they've also developed a new cooling system on this, which is managing to maintain temperatures at a stable position much longer. Interesting one on this, we were on Volkswagen's media website for this, and Volkswagen employ 170,000 people worldwide. That's what their figures are, 170,000 people employed by Volkswagen. Quite a big wages bill there on a Friday evening. Toyota EV production plans. Interesting, very interesting watching Toyota, because they have in the last while kind of put their hands up to the fact that they've underestimated the speed at which the market is going with electric vehicles. So just last week they've announced now that they're setting up a new organisation. That organisation will employ 1,000 people. It's a separate standalone EV development organisation within Toyota, similar to what Ford and Renault have done. It's almost as if they're completely new companies, not linked to the legacy motor division of these legacy brands. They're saying that they're going to be able to cut development time by 50%. They're going to bring new BEVs to the market by 2026. They're saying that these concepts and these ideas in this organisation is going to be able to half the number of assembly steps in producing the vehicles. They're going to have autonomous inspections, unmanned transport around the plants. The more you look at this idea, the more you begin to think that they've studied Tesla plants very closely, because these are all the type of things that exist in Tesla plants. And I think as far as the traditional car makers are concerned, they've been shocked by Tesla's ability to reduce its prices and yet and all remain profitable. And I think the main reason for that has been the level of efficiency that they have in their plants. And Toyota certainly seems to be going down that road here. Staying with Toyota, a kind of a contradictory story, but it goes to show you how many avenues that manufacturers are going down in terms of forms of propulsion and forms of fueling we're going to have into the future of vehicles. They've done a deal with Exxon. They're doing a deal with Exxon to develop e-fuels. So we've been listening to the e-fuel story because Volkswagen and Audi and the Volkswagen Group have pushed for e-fuels to be allowed to be used in Europe, which they've managed to get. Well, now Toyota are saying, right, we're going to develop our own e-fuels in conjunction with an oil company in Exxon. Toyota are saying they're committed to multi-fuel power plants. So they're saying that hybrid is going to exist, fuel cells going to exist, carbon neutral fuel options. They're going to be an array of carbon neutral fuel options. One of the things they're saying in this article, which is interesting, they're mentioning e-fuels to be used for new vehicles, but they're also saying that there needs to be a fuel available for classic vehicles, and that's coming from a new car manufacturer. They say that these e-fuels will be able to reduce greenhouse gases in normal internal combustion engines by 75%. But there's no time scale on what they're doing here. But again, it's showing you that this manufacturer is not really backing any one horse, it's backing all the horses in this race. And again, another traditional manufacturer as in Scania and trucks, but they're now after coming to the market with a new electric truck specifically for car hauling. And when you look at, I'm looking at this more closely, and what you're really discovering is that truck manufacturers now are producing a truck specific to a certain application. Traditionally, if you bought a truck that was going to haul cars, you wouldn't go to Scania and say, I want a truck that's going to haul cars. You simply buy a truck, a diesel-powered truck of a certain specification with a certain maybe axle arrangement on that chassis. But in this case here, Scania are saying we're producing this truck to haul cars. They already produce electric trucks for mining, electric trucks for tipper work, electric trucks for crane work, because they're saying that these type of truck applications are suitable to electric. They're also saying that for heavy loads and long distances, they believe that hydrogen is going to be the solution there. But when you come to looking at this electric truck, what you can see that they've worked out how this vehicle will work and will work in that type of application. They're saying that it'll carry 8 cars. They're saying it'll have a 230 kilowatt motor. They're saying that you can have it fully charged from 0 to full charge at 130 kilowatt charge outlet in 90 minutes. And what they're saying is, they're saying that's the same time, or roughly the same time, as it takes to unload and load 8 cars. So they're kind of saying, look, this application will work for what you do once you're doing that constantly, that type of transport. And again, they're saying, okay, ultimately traditional long haul haulage, heavy load haulage will be hydrogen. And again, staying with trucks, and again staying with the changes that are coming down the line, the British Truck Racing Championship is moving over to HVO, away from traditional diesel. HVO being 100% waste cooking oil that's going to be used in the trucks in this year's championship. They're saying there's no virgin crops used for the production of this fuel, all waste cooking oil that's been reprocessed. And when you think about this, they're saying there's no big changes needed on the engines, and these engines are putting out 1,000 brake horsepower. So it's going to be interesting to get some feedback from the British Truck Racing Championship this year as to how good or bad this fuel performs in them, and are we going to see blow-ups of 100 brake or 1,000 brake horsepower engines in this year's championship. So it'll be interesting to get some feedback as to how that's working, but also shows you that all of these organisations, all of these people involved in motorsport, all have to start to clean up their act. And that's one section there where when you look at the smoke that comes off a truck in the truck racing championship, you know, they're saying, right, we need to tidy, and they are tidying, going with the HVO fuel. Another story which is about the need for and the encouragement of trying to get young people to join the motor industry as mechanics or engineers comes from America, and it's in conjunction with Ford. There's a lady over there called Sweeney who has a TikTok channel that she started in 2021. She simply started to show how she was working on restoring a 1969 Ford Bronco. She is an actress. She starred in things like The White Lotus, Euphoria, and Handmaid's Tale. She starred in all those things, but she's actually now seeing a career develop as a result of her simply doing what she likes to do, and she likes to do it because she comes from a family of mechanics. But what's happened is Ford have latched on to this, and Ford are starting to make some tutorial videos with her to send to young people, to encourage them to look at motor vehicles and motor vehicle maintenance, motor vehicle servicing as a potential career. An interesting one here, she's also going to come up with her own workwear line. The tagline is Forward Thinking Workwear Collection. So it's a workwear collection specifically for females that work on as mechanics. So that's an interesting development. Ford are on board with that, but it goes to show you about how these, again, we have to come up with innovative ways to encourage young people to come into our industry. That's it for this week, guys. Thanks again for watching. If you could like, comment and subscribe, you know the routine by now. If you know anybody else in the trade who might be interested in the stuff we're putting up here, you might just try and pass it on to them so we can get our numbers up. But again, we're only really looking for people that are in the trade, in the industry, and that want to know a little bit more about their trade and their industry through what we're doing. Thanks a lot, and see you next week. Bye.